Shalom, everybody. Welcome to this week's Journey Through Torah. This week we are in Parsha Shoftim. We're talking about judges being established within Israel. And remember what we said is in this book, Deuteronomy, Devarim, words, sayings, things that Moshe proclaimed to the people. He's expounding on things that Israel in the first generation up to now has been given. And he's telling this generation what they're to remember and what is there to keep important when they go into the land. So from this point, you're going into the land, you're going to go in, life is going to be vastly different for you. It's not going to be like it was out here in the wilderness. So there's some things you need to establish and some things you need to do. Now, the interesting thing in this is that, yes, Yahweh was the one who was to rule over them. Yahweh was the one they were supposed to seek for counsel. They had questions. They went to the Levi'im. But understand as well that once Israel goes into the land, they're not going to be like all in one camp. They're going to be scattered all over the land. So it's not like they could just go to the center of the camp and talk to a Levite. So there had to be ways to solve disputes and issues and things that would come up between neighbors, between brothers, because let's face it, things in life, they happen. Okay. And so we have relationships and just things we need to understand. You know, oftentimes we can't see things beyond ourselves. And so we need people who not just are impartial, but people who will tell us what Yahweh desires in a situation, what his righteousness tells us to do in a situation. Remember, scripture says, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and then all these things will be added to you. So when they go into the land, they need to follow Yahweh and pursue his righteousness in the land. That means pursuing his righteousness means walking in his word. So when they're going in the land, they have to establish order in the land as they go before them. Now, I want to point out as well in this parsha, there's something pretty important that we'll get to, not quite there yet, but it talks about the prophet that is going to be sent, and spoiler alert, I believe it to be Yeshua, okay? But before we get there, we're going to establish order and how things are ordered within the community, because you have to have justice. You have to have judgment and justice. You have to have a rule of law to have order for a people to live free. I mean, we can say, no, we just want absolute freedom. We don't need any kind of rules or boundaries or anything else. Guys, that's not freedom. That's anarchy. Because you're always going to have people to say, you know, no, I have my rights, I have my wants, I have my needs, and I don't care what that means to you. And when my rights trample all over you and your family, so what? We can't have that. Okay, we've got to have things established, a rule of law established within the people to have, yes, you have freedom, but at some point, this freedom is going to cause harm to somebody else. So freedom doesn't mean you can just do whatever you want, whenever you want, however you want. I know that doesn't sound right? But understand, freedom gives you boundaries to flourish within that. That's what the Torah does for us. That's what Yahweh does for us. We are, in our freedom, we are worshiping him, but we can step outside of what he desires for us and go and serve other gods and go do other things. And that's not what he wants. So we have that choice to make. But if we're going to walk with him and be established in the freedom that he gives us, we need to learn to walk in his ways. You know, Yeshua says, when the son sets free is free indeed. Absolutely, 100%. If you come, you give your life to him, he will set you free from bondage, sin, all these things that have held you back. But if you choose to go walk and submit yourself back to that stuff, you're going to get back in bondage again. Okay, so we need to learn how to walk free. We need to learn how to walk as a people of Yahweh. So I guess this comes into, do we gather as a people of Yahweh? You know, me as an individual, I am redeemed, I am born again, but understand that means I am part of a people. And are we willing to do that? Or are all of us just going to do what's right in our own eyes? And I don't see a place in scripture where it ever says that worked well. Okay, and everybody did right what was in their own eyes, and no, that doesn't always work out, does it? So we're going to get into a few things about establishing order and justice and what it means to pursue justice, and we'll kind of come back around to the prophet. And before we get to all that, I want to point out something that I heard from Brad Scott, blessed brother, and so he did it well. He did a good job at this. He said that rules without relationship causes rebellion. But relationship without rules causes confusion and lawlessness. Righteous behavior is only taught and found in the Torah. So the power and the ability to be able to perform that righteousness is only found in God's grace and mercy. So we're walking in his righteousness when we're walking in his ways, and he equips us to walk in his ways when he brings us into a place of covenant and redeems us and shows us how to live. So in that, we start off in Deuteronomy 16:18 today, where it says, "Judges and officers you are to appoint within all your gates that Adonai your God is giving you, according to your tribes, and they are to judge the people with righteous judgment." This is a pretty loaded verse. We're not going to get into all that, but judges and officers, Shoftim v'Shotrim, literally this would be like judges and officers, even modern today, judges and like police officers. So judges and officers. A judge, if he makes righteous decrees about rules of law, matters of law, if there's no one to help enforce that, it's powerless. But on the other hand, if you have officers without the declarations of what is proper law and order, then you're going to have problems in that too. So there's kind of a checks and balances. These are supposed to work together. And if they're submitted to Yahweh, they're making righteous decrees. It's not just making judgments, it's making righteous judgments and righteous decrees. And this is going to benefit not just you, benefit the community at large. You know, we often think judgment is bad. Judgment's only bad if you're on the wrong side of it. If we have an issue, something going on in our life, we want a judgment. We want a decree. We want something being established of saying, this is what you're supposed to do. This is what's right. This is not what's right. So we need to learn to walk in that. And we only find that in the Torah. Okay, the Torah is not just rules. This is ceremonial law. This is moral law. No, this is the Torah. This is the heart of Yahweh to his people. And so when we're pursuing justice and righteousness and how to live with one another and how to have a community with one another, we need to pursue the Torah, which is the heart of Yahweh given to his people. We even see this in Malachi 2:7, where it says, "A Kohen's lips should safeguard knowledge, and people should seek the Torah from his mouth, from his lips, because he is the messenger of Yahweh Tzavaot." So if we're coming to someone for advice, I don't know about you, I don't really want to know someone's opinion. I want to know what is righteousness. I want to know what is justice. I want to know what is the right thing. And that's where we go back to the Torah. So if someone was to go to a Kohen in a situation, we are seeking Torah from them. We're not just seeking their opinion, because a lot of times someone's opinion does not line up with what the Torah says. And so we need to be seeking what the Torah says, because this is a messenger of Yahweh Tzavaot. So if we have someone who is proclaiming they are a messenger from Yahweh and their words do not line up with the Torah, we have a problem. All right. So we're getting into areas here of national leadership in Israel. Okay. It's not just like a personal or even just within one city or whatever. We're talking about on a national level. Shoftim are judges that were to be established throughout the land. Okay. Not just in the capital, but throughout the land they're to be established. So what are some of the national leaders for the sons of Israel? Well, there's a few we give it in here. One is Shofet, which is judges and a judicial system. Okay, Shofet is a judge. Shoftim is plural, judges. And we have the Levi'im, which this is religious leadership and civil servants. This was the Levites, and I believe the Cohen would fall in there as well, because the Kohanim were Levites. All right. So, and then we have a Navi. Navi is the prophet. He is the religious guidance and national direction. A lot of times in the scripture, not exclusively, but a lot of times in the scripture, when the prophets spoke, they spoke to Israel as a nation, as a people, as a whole, and they would go to the kings and the leaders of the people to declare what Yahweh is saying to the people, not just necessarily one-on-one. Okay. A lot of times people view prophets as fortune tellers and soothsayers and just telling me about my life. Guys, I'm not saying that can't happen, okay? But what the prophets throughout the scriptures were doing, throughout the entirety of the scriptures, they were concerned with the national issues, okay? Concerned with calling people in to repent, and national, for Israel, the sons of Israel as a whole, as a grouping, as a people. And people even want to talk about Eliyahu, yes, but he went to the king and made proclamations from Yahweh to the king, and people did come to him for issues and things that they needed. I mean, we even see miracles and things that were done and established. So I'm not talking against that. I'm just saying we've kind of gone off. We're looking for people to, declare things from God, but we won't open our Bible. That's dangerous, okay? Because how are we to know what someone is saying truly is from the Ruach HaKodesh, is truly from the Spirit of Yahweh? We don't, if we don't know how to discern. We only know how to discern if we go back to this: righteousness, justice, judgments, the Torah, the things that are given. And then we have Melech, the king. It's the political leadership. And granted, yes, Yahweh was the king for Israel. And it's not like Yahweh says, I want you to have an earthly king, but he does say, when you go into the land, there's going to come a time you're going to say, we want to be like all the other nations and we want a king. So you're not going to get off it. So when you have a king, I'm going to set some guidelines and some rules down for it. Okay. So it's not like Yahweh says, I want you to have a king. He says, when you go into the land, you're going to want one. So these are some guidelines and some rules regarding the king. So the judges, where were the judges being established? Well, in the cities, the judges were to judge at the gates. Essentially, the judges were gatekeepers. What does it mean to be a gatekeeper? A gatekeeper is someone who would allow something into the city and allow things out of the city. Okay, so it is the gatekeepers that would say what is permissible in the city and what would be allowed within and what would be withheld from the city. You see some people coming in who want to cause trouble. It is the gatekeepers that saying, you can't come in here. We're not going to allow that in our city. Okay. Also, the markets were near the city gates as well. So this was not just a place of commerce, but this is also a place where the judges would go and if people had issues, they would come and make proclamations at the city gates. They would hear these things. And then we have reminders of justice and judgment and what is right on the city gates themselves, because back to the Shema, hear Israel, the Lord your God, the Lord is one, right? But then it also says, and these words that I'm giving you today will be what? Write them on your doors, on your gates, not just on your heart, but on your doors and on your gates. Seeing all these work together, because in your going and your coming and going back and forth and everything that you do, it is being established. Yahweh's word is there. Okay, so when you're going out into the world, Yahweh's word is there. Walk in his word, walk in his ways. He goes before you to show you that way. Walk with him in that. And then when you come into the city, same thing when you come back home. All right. He is the word that goes before you and he is with you. Acknowledge him in all of your ways. So the gates was a place where justice was established and meted out to the people. All right. Zechariah 8:16 and 17, it says, these are the things that you were to do. Speak the truth to one another, administer the judgment of truth and shalom in your gates. Do not let any of you devise evil in your hearts against your neighbor, and do not love false oaths, for I hate all these things. It is a declaration of Adonai. So again, what are we to do? Speak the truth, but we need to speak the truth in love. That's part of administering judgment of truth and peace in your gates. We need to speak the truth, but we need to do this because we are in relationship with one another, because we care about one another. All right. And then if we have differing views on what the truth is, then there has to be those that were established that we are to go and to find out, okay, so what's really being said here and what are we to do in this situation? Okay. And that kind of comes back down to the next verse in Deuteronomy 16:19 says, you are not to twist justice. You must not show partiality or take a bribe, for a bribe blinds the eyes of the wise and distorts the words of the righteous. So he says, you're not to twist justice. Well, we can twist justice if we twist the words. All right. And then also with the judge making a decree, not to accept gifts. This really translates as gift, but we mean bribe when we say that. It's like, no, that's not a bribe. It's just a gift. No, what we're doing is we're trying to butter somebody up so that they would be favorable towards us. No, I like him, so I'm not going to rule against him. No, so that's not how we're supposed to be. We're not to show partiality in judgment and in justice. We're not to show partiality there. Exodus 18:21 and 22 says, you should seek out capable men out of all the people, men who fear God, men of truth, who hate bribery, and appoint them to be rulers over thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. Let them judge the people all the time, and let every major case be brought to you, but every minor case they can judge for themselves. Make it easier for yourself as they bear the burden with you. So if you're familiar with the portions, Exodus 18 is Parsha Yitro, where Moshe's father-in-law comes to him, where Moshe was sitting all day, all night, sun up to sundown, just kind of answering arguments. Okay, people were having disputes, and he was kind of declaring, this is what the heart of Yahweh is, this is what the will of Yahweh is. And Yitro said, look, you guys aren't going to make it to the land. You're not going to be able to go anywhere, because by the time somebody gets done with you, they're going to go back to the end of the line. All right, so what you need to do, you need to have people here to help this. You teach them Torah, is what he said. You teach them what God says, and let them make the declarations. They have leaders over tens, fifties, hundreds, and thousands. And then If there are issues that they cannot determine, then let them bring those to you. So that way all Israel can go in peace and do what it's supposed to do. Now, some have said this was just Yitro's advice, not what God said, but we do see in the Torah where God says to establish leaders to do just this thing. All right. So we also see Exodus 23:8, where it says, take no bribe, because a bribe blinds those who have sight and perverts the words of the righteous. Proverbs 29:4 says, by justice a king brings stability to a land, but one who takes bribes brings it ruin. So again, justice is what we are seeking, not just for ourselves, but for the community as a whole. And that's established in the next verse. Deuteronomy 16:20 says, justice, justice you must pursue, so that you may live and possess the land that Adonai your God is giving you. So tzedek, tzedek, tirdof is the way this is written. Justice, justice you must pursue. Well, what does it mean? Justice, justice. We're just repeating ourselves? No, I believe this to mean justice, justly. Okay? You are to have justice justly. In other words, you're to do the right thing the right way. It's to do the right thing for the right reason, to do the right thing the right way. It's not a matter of just, well, the ends justify the means. No, you do the right thing, but you do it the right way. Even in the pursuit of justice, you follow righteousness. You don't pervert righteousness so that justice can be had. No, because that's again would be considered a perversion of justice. So justice, justly, you are to pursue. You are to do the right things in your life. Do what Yahweh said. Again, understanding what is justice for us. Justice for us, righteousness, tzedek. Tzedek is also translated tzedekah, charity, tzaddik, a righteous person. So this all goes in together. So we are to pursue righteousness. How do we pursue righteousness? Again, seek first the kingdom of Yah and his righteousness. All these things will be added to you. We are pursuing his righteousness when we're learning to walk in his ways and pursuing his kingdom, which is his heart for us, that we learn to walk together in the means that glorify and honor him. Genesis 18:18 and 19 says, Abraham will most certainly become a great and mighty nation, and in him all the nations of the earth will be blessed. For I have made myself known to him, so that he will command his sons and his household after him to keep the way of Adonai by doing righteousness and justice, so that Adonai may bring upon Abraham what he has spoken. And Micah 6:8 and 9 says, he has told you, humanity, what is good and what Adonai is seeking from you, to practice justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God. The voice of Adonai calls to the city. It is wisdom to fear your name. Pay attention to the rod of the one who appointed. So again, how do we practice justice? And in practicing justice, don't forget to love mercy and walk humbly, right? So we need to practice justice. And again, how do we do that? By learning what Yahweh says for our lives and how we're to treat one another and handle one another in situations and just follow him in that. Isaiah 51:7 says, hearken to me, you who know righteousness. Who are the ones who are to know righteousness? The word used there is tzedek, same word there. How do we know righteousness? The people in whose heart is the Torah. Those who have the Torah on their heart are the ones who are to know righteousness. And then it says, fear not the reproach of men, nor be afraid of their reviling. So if we have the word written on our heart, we're going to pursue righteousness. That's what he's telling us. So how do we have the word written on our heart? Well, first off, we have to surrender to him and let him write it. We have to do that. As a matter of fact, Jeremiah 31 tells us about this is the new covenant that he has given to the house of Israel and the house of Judah, that he will take the Torah and write it within them. So again, it is his word being established to us so that we can walk in his ways. So again, what does righteousness mean for us? Psalm 5:8 says, lead me, Yahweh, in your righteousness because of my enemies. Make your way straight before my face. Psalm 23:3 says, he restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. And then Proverbs 14:34 says, righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. So we are to have established judges and officers who will carry out without partiality judgment and justice that is being given. But where do we see compassion fit in on all of this? You know, the Lord is gracious and compassionate, full of mercy, rich in love, all of this, right? but he is justice. He does justice. So how do these two go together? Well, here's the thing. In declaring justice, you cannot pervert justice and say, well, yeah, this person committed this crime, but you know what? That's okay. Just go ahead and go on. We'll just forget about it. That's not justice. Okay? Justice is this person killed someone. There's a penalty for that. Okay? So there's justice to be had there. Now, compassion can be carried out in the sentencing for that. Here's something that I want to point out. Okay, very example, kind of extreme, but this is what we're looking at. The wages of sin is death. We have sin. We were born to sin, and so now we live in a fallen world. We sin. So the wages of sin is death. That's justice. Okay, we're guilty. The judge has made a declaration. Penalty is death. However, compassion doesn't change the penalty, but it affects the carrying out of the sentence. We're guilty. The penalty is death. That's justice. But Yeshua paid the debt for us. That's compassion. He came, and in his grace and in mercy and in his compassion, he paid the debt for us. He made a way where justice was had, but we did not have to pay the price for that. And he draws us to himself in that. Amazing looking at pictures on that. You know, kind of like a judge who has someone before him. He can make the decree of justice. You know, I sentence you to, life in prison. But compassion could say either I'm lessening the sentence or, this is the sentence. But then in the carrying that out, parole or whatever else may be involved in that. So you can see things in that, I have paid it for you kind of a thing. So again, justice and compassion, they do work together, but they're not the same thing. And justice, you don't have to have compassion and justice. Okay. Justice is justice, but compassion is to be given in carrying out that justice as well. So Yeshua upheld the standard of justice that was in the Torah. And you may say, wait. What about the woman caught in adultery? How was justice carried out there? Did they kill her? Because she was guilty, right? So did they kill her? Well, let me ask you, did Yeshua cancel the charges against her? Or did he properly apply the Torah in setting her free? I'm going to submit to you, he did not change the Torah. He did not change what God said, but he properly interpreted the Torah to carry out the carrying forth justice in her situation. You go to John 8, verses 4 to 11, we find the story. These men, they brought this woman to Yeshua, and they said, teacher, this woman has been caught in the act of adultery. In the Torah, Moses commanded us to stone such a woman. So what do you say? Again, they're trying to trap him, right? So now they were saying this to trap him, but they would have grounds to accuse him. But Yeshua knelt down and he started writing in the dirt with his finger. And they kept asking him. He stood up and said, the sinless one among you, let him be the first to throw a stone at her. Then he knelt down again and continued writing on the ground. And now what they heard, he began to leave one by one, the oldest ones first, until Yeshua was left alone with the woman in the middle. So straightening up, Yeshua said to her, woman, where are they? Did no one condemn you? And no one, sir, she said, so neither do I condemn you. Yeshua said, go and sin no more. So is this a matter of, see, he gave her mercy instead of judgment. He gave her mercy instead of justice. See, so he changed the Torah, that there's something, so that mercy is greater than the Torah. No, he gave her mercy in the Torah, through the Torah, because he properly interpreted it to extend that to her. All right. So they bring this woman to Yeshua. They're like, so they were trying to trap him. What do you say we do here? And he goes, bills down and starts writing in the sand. We don't know what he was writing, but I am of the belief that he was writing their names in there. There's a passage in Jeremiah that says, those who turn their back on you, their names will be written in the dust. I believe he was writing their names there. And so then he stands and he says, so who among you is without sin, let him cast the first stone. Okay, here's the thing. He was calling them forward. So you guys are witnesses to what she did then? Because you can only make this kind of claim to be established if there are witnesses that are brought in. So you guys were witnesses to this? Oh, okay. So if you guys are witnesses to this, then the witnesses are to carry out the sentence here with the judge's decree. So you guys are going to be the ones to cast the first stone. You guys are sinless. You guys didn't have any involvement with her. You guys are clean in this. And then he kept writing. And then they all started leaving. And then Yeshua stood up and he asked the woman, where are your accusers? He's saying, Where are your accusers? Where are the witnesses to make this claim and accusation against you? There weren't any. And so if there are no witnesses, there's none that can be established in any court anywhere. So Yeshua says, there's no witnesses, nothing's brought there, you're free to go. See, he established what the Torah said in this. Now, Deuteronomy 17, 6 and 7 says, by the word of 2 or 3 witnesses, the one who is to die is to be put to death. No one is to be put to death by the word of one witness. At the hand of the witnesses is the first to put him to death, and afterward the hand of all the people. So you are to purge the evil from your midst. So what's happening here is if someone was a false witness in an offense that was to result in a stoning, then the witness would be considered a murderer. I'm bringing accusations against this person. They're not true. I'm a false witness. Then they die because of it. And my involvement in that caused that. And I had to be one to cast the first stone. So I am now a murderer. See that? See how that works? And so if you were a false witness, you would come under charges yourself. Deuteronomy 19, 16 to 20 says, suppose a hostile witness rises up against someone and accuses him of wrongdoing. Both people who have the dispute will stand before Adonai, before the Kohanim and the judges in charge at that time. The judges are to investigate thoroughly. And if indeed the witness is a false witness and has testified falsely against his brother, then you are to do to him just as he plotted to do to his brother. So you will purge the evil from your midst. Those who remain will hear and be afraid, and they will no longer do such evil thing as in your midst. It's kind of like doing this prevents any witch hunts. Kind of prevents people of just, I don't like that guy, so I'm going to make this false accusation against them so that we can bring them to charge and get rid of them, get them out of my way, get them out of my hair, whatever. No, that's not going to happen, because you are to have justice and done the right way. If you try to bring false accusations against your brother, you yourself can be put in danger. Okay? So again, we are to pursue righteous and justice, grace, mercy, walk with Yahweh in his ways, learn to do this all with one another. All right? So we have a proper community and proper voices speaking into our life to show us the heart of the Father and to show us mishpatim, the things that we're to do to walk with each other. Now, we can get into the prophets, speaking of the voices that we are to hear and the voices that we are to listen to. Deuteronomy 18, verses 18 to 20, and again, just cutting to the chase, I do believe this is speaking of Yeshua. It says, I will raise up a prophet like you from among your brothers. I will put my words in his mouth, and he will speak to them all that I command him. Now, whoever does not listen to my words that this prophet speaks in my name, I myself will call him to account. But the prophet who presumes to speak a word in my name, which I have not commanded him to speak, or one who speaks in the name of other gods, that prophet will die. Do you see these things? So what he's saying here, first off, before we get to verse 18, let's look at the other part where it says, okay, so the prophet who says things and speaks things presumptuously, they're saying things that I didn't say to say. They're kind of speaking their own will, or they're following other gods, or they're doing their own things. They're doing things that I did not say to do. That prophet's going to die. That a prophet is not to act presumptuously, to presume they know what God says. No, you can't do that. They either hear or they don't. Okay. Jeremiah 14, verse 14 and 15 says, Adonai says to me, the prophets prophesy lies in my name. I did not send them, nor commanded them, nor did I speak to them. They are prophesying to you a lying vision, divination, futility, a delusion of their heart. Therefore, thus says Adonai, about the prophets who prophesy in my name, though I did not send them, yet they keep saying, sword and famine will never be on this land. By sword and famine will those prophets be consumed. So again, not speaking presumptuously in what Yahweh had said. We also see in Ezekiel 13, 7 to 9, says, did you not see an empty vision and speak false omen when you say, Adonai says, when I have not spoken? Therefore, thus says Adonai Elohim, because you have spoken falsely and prophesied lies, therefore behold, I am against you, is a declaration of Adonai. My hands will be against the prophets who see false visions and utter lying divinations. They will not remain in the assembly of my people, nor will they be recorded in the register of the house of Israel, nor enter into the land of Israel, and you will know that I am Adonai. Again, someone who says that Yahweh said when Yahweh did not say comes under danger, come under penalty, And that is not what we are supposed to do. So some things to note. What we read here earlier, he says he's going to raise up a prophet, and I will put my words in his mouth. See that? The true prophet will have Yahweh's words in his mouth. He will not speak of his own initiative. He will speak what Yahweh says. And he says, whoever does not listen to my words that the prophet speaks in my name, I myself will call him to account. Now, here's the thing. When we're doing issues of like the judges, the Shoftim, the Shotrim, if you don't carry it through what the judge says, because he says, whatever the judge decrees, whatever the Levite decrees, whatever is said there, it goes, it stays. But if you don't agree with it, it goes, it stays. Now, if that guy's wrong, Yahweh's going to call that judge into account for it. Okay? But you uphold what he says. Now, when it comes to the prophet, we do what he says because he is speaking what Yahweh says. He's not speaking of his own initiative. He's not even speaking his own understanding. He's speaking what Yahweh says. And we see this as a record of Yeshua. He was not appointed by man. He was appointed by Yahweh. And who does not listen to him will be accountable to Yahweh. John 14:10 says, don't you believe that I am in the Father and the Father is in me? The words I say to you, I do not speak on my own, but the Father dwelling in me does his works. John 14:23 and 24, Yeshua says, if anyone loves me, he will keep my word. My Father will love him, and we will come to him and make our dwelling with him. He who does not love me does not keep my words. And the word you hear is not mine, but the Father's who sent me. See that? So Yeshua is saying, the things that I'm telling you, the things that I'm saying, the things you see me doing, this is what the Father has instructed. This is what Yahweh has instructed. I'm not speaking just things that I want or things that I think would work well for you guys. I am speaking from the very heart of Yahweh. I'm speaking his words, his life. He is the prophet that was given in Deuteronomy 18. 1 John 2:23 to 25 says, no one who denies the Son has the Father. The one who acknowledges the Son also has the Father. As for you, let what you heard from the beginning remain in you. If what you heard from the beginning remains in you, you also will continue to live in the Son and in the Father. So now this is the promise that he himself has promised us, eternal life. Walking with Yeshua, walking with him is walking in the ways of Yahweh. We cannot say, I'm following Yeshua, but I'm not going to walk in the Torah, because Yeshua said that the things that Moshe wrote testified of him. If you believe Moses, you would believe Yeshua. You would believe what he says. And if that's true, then the other way around works just as well. That the things that Yeshua say are upholding the things that Moses said. Because Yeshua cannot say, Moses wrote of me, but he was wrong. He can't do that. Okay? So these work together. If we're walking with Yeshua, we need to learn to walk in Yahweh's righteousness, which is walking in the word that Yahweh has given us to walk. Yeshua showed us how to walk in his ways and to do it properly and with the right heart. How do we carry out justice and righteousness? Our heart has to be in it. If it is not our heart to walk with Yahweh, then anything we do will be considered legalistic. Well, I'm going to do it because I have to do it. No, it is our desire to walk with Yahweh and follow him. It is our heart to do so. Why? Because he loves us and we love him. So we're going to follow him and we're going to walk in his ways that he is setting before us. Okay, guys, that is all I have for you on this Parsha. I pray this has been a blessing to you. I pray this has encouraged you and challenged you as well. And if it has, share it. Help get it out there. If this has blessed you, it's going to bless somebody else, right? So please share it on whatever avenue you watch or you listen. And if this has been a blessing to you, then please consider making a donation to whatever avenue you watch or listen as well, because that will, again, help us to continue putting these videos out there. They can only be out there because you guys have helped make it possible, okay? So with that, be blessed, be a blessing, and shalom.